23rd Annual Motorcycle Show here at the National Packard Museum in Warren, Ohio.
Never seen more bikes in my life, never seen bikes that I've never seen in my life. You got to get out here. It's going on right now through May 16th.
I have Marianne Porenchek from the National Packard Museum.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good.
So this is what, the 23rd?
23rd annual. Yeah, can you believe it? 23 years.
And we've covered quite a few of them, but
yeah.
not all 23 though.
Yeah, it keeps on going. It keeps getting better every year.
Yeah, so we have what, 35 bikes here. What's the theme?
The theme this year is BMW because it's the 100th anniversary of the manufacturing of the BMW motorcycle. So this exhibit is heavy on BMWs. We've got them from a pretty broad timeline for them, including the sidecars. So that's kind of cool to see that.
A couple of those, yeah.
We also have a BMW factory tour video. It's just like 5 minutes long that they did in 1954, which is very cool to watch because they're hand pinstriping things in there. But then we've got a lot of other bikes here. So if you're interested in motorcycling, there's definitely going to be something here for you.
35 bikes this year, huh? That's good.
35, yep. Biggest show ever.
Then when you're done looking at the bikes, you can
look at the Packard
cars.
automobiles and check out the Packard family history and Packard electric history. There is definitely a lot to see
your
here.
jaw will drop when you see some of these old Packards.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me, what are the hours? And
We're open noon to 5, Tuesday through Saturday, 1 to 5 on Sunday, and the exhibit goes until May 20th.
Okay, sounds good. It's always a thrill to come in here and do this.
Thanks for coming. We appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting us. Thank you.
Hi everybody, live from the Packard Museum. It's the motorcycle exhibit, and this is our first stop. Joining me right now is Larry Rabbit Smith, and he's got a unique motorcycle, a 1954 Triumph Terrier, which was the forerunner of the Triumph Cub. Larry, a little bit about it.
Okay, Carl Forkey has this machine. He put it into the show this year, and it represents the process of the evolution of the Triumph motorcycles after World War II. And it starts out with this Terrier, and it had both a street version with lights and stuff, and then it also was a racing bike. And it would eventually keep gaining some size until it became a 200 that was pretty popular during the 60s and that, and it ended up being a 250 that they raced. And most of the people in the 60s and that bored them out so that they could be a 250 and race them in flat track and the TT races at the time.
You know, when we were all younger, 15, 16, 17 years old, everybody wanted a Triumph Cub, the 200cc Cub. I mean, they were so versatile. It was light. You could kind of move it and push it around. You could actually carry your girlfriend on the back a little bit. You could take it and go into the woods with it. It was a great bike. And sure, this is a great example of 54 Triumph Terrier.
with me I have Robert Bancroft from Kinsman, Ohio. You got this old bike here. It's like the third oldest bike in this whole place today. A 1931 BMW R11.
11, right.
How long have you owned this baby?
1981 I bought it.
Wow.
At a vintage BMW event that was going on, and everybody, vintage BMWs were there. And I looked at the bike. I couldn't afford it then, which wasn't a ton of money. I mean,
How much you pay for it?
$2,500, which is like
Well, that was a lot back then.
kind of.
It was in this shape. You probably
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just the way you see it. Didn't run quite right. Had an issue with the magneto, and fixed all of that. And since then, it's just been riding the thing around.
Can you find parts for it?
No. Well, gaskets and stuff, you know, pistons and valves. Yes, they're starting to reproduce that stuff. But to have it 100% original, that's as close as you can be. It's pretty rare.
Are there very
Quite
many of
rare.
these around?
R11s themselves, maybe a handful in the United States, but unrestored original, I've never seen another one.
That's
ever.
what this is. Everything's pretty much original except what?
Correct.
A wire on there?
A wire on the taillight was actually was a lamp cord light, and I switched it to a cloth-covered wire because that looked more correct. But that's.
This bike what was this used for? It wasn't a military bike or anything like
No,
that, right?
no, it's a civilian bike.
Civilian bike,
Yes,
okay.
yes. But back during the war, I guess from what I was told in Germany, the military would confiscate whatever they felt that they needed to use for the war effort. And so a lot of this stuff was just taken by the military. But somehow this survived. And I don't know how that happened, but
It's got a unique frame on it, huh?
star frame it's called, where there's no welding at all.
They just punch it out.
On the side where this comes around, it's all riveted together.
Oh, okay, I see. I
No,
see it now.
no welding. And so they had this big stamping and stamped it each side and then riveted it together. And so, yeah, that's what they did.
Suicide shift,
Suicide shift. Yeah.
3-speed.
Well, really, the Harleys were called suicide shift
Yeah,
because
this
that was
one
a foot
wasn't, yeah,
clutch.
yeah.
You know, when you took your foot up, you know, if you had either a foot on a clutch or you went to balance yourself, off you went, you know, usually. But
So this is never called a suicide
not
shift?
really, no. It's just a hand shift because it still has a hand clutch.
Right.
So to ride it's quite easy. It's not, there's nothing really difficult to ride. No different than any modern bike. But you do have to take your hand off the throttle, shift it, and then clutch. So
Do you drive her around?
I do.
Do you?
Yeah, not on public streets a lot,
Yeah.
but we take it to a lot of different meets, and my wife rides on the back, and
That's original seat on the back and everything.
yes. It's got little adjuster things. I don't know, probably from this angle you can't see, but there's a ratchet there for depending on the weight of your rider, you can increase the tension of the springs underneath
Yeah,
the
I
seat.
see that, yeah. That's
And
pretty cool.
yeah,
This is a 19 what? What am I thinking?
31.
1931.
31. Initially, when I first got it, I did have thoughts of restoring it because in my mindset back then, everything's shiny
Yeah.
and chrome.
Yeah.
But now,
You're lucky you didn't.
the
It's probably
other way
worth a lot
around,
more,
it's a survivor and it's only original once.
Right.
After it's restored, it can be restored many times if it needs to be, but you know, so that's what really makes it the rare.
How fast have you had it?
Oh, geez, maybe 50.
50?
50, yeah.
Going to go more than that? It's only got what?
It could, not by much, but if you go on the other side, Rick, you see that the brake is on the drive shaft. It's not on the rear wheel. See how there's no drum on the rear wheel?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
brake is on the drive shaft, the drum
Okay.
on the drive shaft
They had dry shafts way back when, then, huh?
from day one.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
23 was the first year for BMW. And so, yeah.
This is a powerhouse. How many horsepower? 18.
18.
18 horsepower. But it's a 350 or a 750 cc.
Yes.
I was surprised when
Yes.
you said that before.
Yes, 750cc side valve or flathead, whichever
I
configuration.
think it would
one
pump
calls.
out more horsepower than that.
Well, it's because of that long intake manifold and the smaller carburetor and just a little simple tuning of it, you know? Because it runs so nice. It'll just sit there and pop. And because of that single carburetor, both cylinders are always in tune. You know,
Right.
you're never off a sync if you have like a dual carburetor situation. So
You had many offers on it. People wanted to buy it off you.
many.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes,
huh?
I have a collection of bikes, and there's a handful that are desirable.
How many bikes you have?
I think it's 101.
Oh, yeah.
101. It could be exactly 100.
Uh-huh.
I had sold a couple, then I bought a couple too. So, yeah, it's a lot.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, a handful of them are the ones that are really worth the most. But I like unrestored original stuff, so I have about 6 bikes that are
Are you
unrestored.
still collecting?
I tell my wife I'm not buying anymore, but that
Oh, sure.
that
It's-
always changes.
yeah.
That changes.
It's
all
an
the time.
addiction. You
Oh
know
yeah,
that.
yeah. You know, it's just the way it is.
It's a good addiction, though. You know.
Not looking until something comes my way.
Right.
And then once you see it, it's like, oh my goodness.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There's another one. Hey, Robert, thank you very much for showing us your 31 BMW. What a beauty she is.
Thank you, Rick.
And I'll make you an offer after this, okay?
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll put you on the list.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi everybody, joining me live from the 23rd motorcycle exhibit at the Packard Museum is my good friend Al Novecki. Al at one time was a budding bike builder, but then he's turned it into a unique hobby where he has grown it to where you would see what we would consider very professional, not backyard mechanic type jobs. He's got a couple of unique bikes here, and I'm going to ask Al to walk through them from the front to the back. Al, we're starting with the Yamaha.
Yeah, I was always wanted a British style single cylinder scrambler, and so I went out and started looking for a donor bike, and I found this 500 Yamaha. I usually always buy junk, real bad junk, and I found this in Richmond, West Virginia on eBay. Went down there and got it. I paid $300 for the bike, but it had a title. Brought it home, tore it all apart, and started working on it. Started looking for parts and stuff like that. And I sourced most of the parts out of Thailand because the SR500 Yamaha was never a big product or seller in the States, but the 400 and the 500 were huge over in Thailand. And there's 3 or 4 manufacturers over there that sell parts, and I just was on their line and just kept looking at different things. And one of the first things I decided was the swing arm that I got from Motorlana, and the seat and the fenders and stuff. And but the only thing that's totally original on the bike is the front forks and the motor. Other than that, everything else has been heavily modified. And then I went looking for a tank, and I got this from Omega Racer after I found the exhaust, because I was looking for a high pipe stainless steel exhaust. And I got that, and then I found that tank, and but all the shiny bits came from Motorlana, and it just evolved into what you see here. And my intention was I was going to build a bike to run at the reliability run down at the BSA meet, and then when I took it down there to do that, everybody told me that the bike was a bit too pretty to be taken out and riding in the mud and the dirt and dropping it down and stuff like that. So I decided, okay, never mind, I won't bother doing that. I'll just daily ride it, and that's kind of where the Kawasaki came in about. I decided I had a Suzuki and I got rid of it, and I wanted to get something else, and I bought both of these from a guy. He had 2 of them, one with a title, one without. 2 guys bought them together, brand new, and my original intention was to put one together and flip it. But then when I decided that I was going to need a bike for doing some other different stuff, the reliability run at the BSA meet and the small bore and stuff, so I got this and decided to do a full factory style restoration on it. When I got it, it was orange, and now it's back to as close as I could get to the stock color, and rebuilt the motor, and it's basically all stock except for a few items here and there. And all right, it's a neat little rider, and but a couple of my torques.
Let me jump in here real quick because we're going to start back with here. This originally was a $300 fine.
Right.
Approximately, so the wife doesn't know. What do you think you got into something like this now? Not just the man hours. Hundreds.
Just the price of the parts, probably 2,500 plus.
Well, you couldn't buy this bike for $2,500, so that's the big deal about being able to do many of these things yourself. And of course, Al did start out this way. You know, he's gradually grown over the years of being able to put these things together, but he certainly has an eye for the color and how one thing blends into the other. And you can look at the tank and how the upswept pipe, everything accents each other. And you look at that bike there, and that looks like it's ready to come right off the showroom. It's just a gorgeous example of an S6.
Yes. My first restoration was a stock restoration on a BMW R75. And then after that, I bought a 650 Yamaha brand new in '78 and decided I wanted to do it. And I didn't go stock, and I bought a replica kit that makes it look like a Triumph Hurricane. And that was a total custom rebuild. But something like this took me probably a year from start to finish. Tear it all completely down to every nut and bolt and replace everything and put it all back together.
And the good thing is these bikes have been ridden and are rideable every day if you'd want to put gas in them and stuff and get them to go.
Yeah.
You can take them out and ride them today.
Yeah, I buy them, I ride them, I don't, I don't have
hide them.
intentions of selling them, but I ride them. I'm currently doing a 1969 Triumph T100R Daytona. I'm going to do it in a cafe style. That should be done by June, I hope, so I can take it to the Triumph meet.
Well, that is it. That about wraps it up. That's Al Advocate. Al is local to Warren here. He's also part of the Packard. He's a guy that helps out, put the bikes on display and that. So we're encouraging everybody to see this, to get on out, spend a couple of bucks, and you can not only see the Packards, but also the 23rd motorcycle exhibit going on now through the end of May.
With me, I have Jim Accazelli here from Warren, Ohio. How's it going?
Great. Yeah, great to be here at the show. A great turnout tonight, and it's been going on for many years, and we're glad to be a part of it, and we're glad to see everybody out here tonight enjoying all the bikes that'll be shown from now till Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, it's a great turnout.
You got about 4 bikes in there?
Yeah, we have 4 from the dealership, our collection there, which is
what dealership's that?
Motozilli down here on Mahoning Avenue in Champion. And in the basement of the dealership, I have a museum down there, the Motozilli Museum.
And you haven't invited us down here yet?
Well, you need to talk to Mr. Larry Ward about that. So I would love to have you guys down. Yes, it's a great, and we've done some big events there as well. So 3 of the bikes that we have here are from our museum at the Motozilli Museum. This is a new unit that we were able to get from Royal Enfield. Royal Enfield is celebrating their 120th anniversary, which means they are the longest running, continuous running motorcycle manufacturer in the world.
It's a British bike, right? English.
It's actually comes from India.
Well, it started in Britain, right?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yep. And what kept it going is the Enfield rifle. So the motorcycle end of the company faded away for a while, but continuously running Royal Enfield Corporation or company is the longest running. So they've got the fame to claim that they're the oldest motorcycle manufacturer in the world.
So they're made in India.
Yep.
And I was surprised. We had one of your reps on before on our podcast.
Yeah, Bree Poling, sure, yes.
And she we had her on our podcast, and we talked and talked. And I could not believe what these things cost.
Yes, they're very reasonable. So our most popular is a 650 twin engine, so 650cc twin cylinder, fuel injected, and with the fancy paint in the top of the line, you're about $6,100.
That's it.
Yeah, and that's it.
How do you get away with that?
You know, it's a great, very reliable, and many of our real enthusiasts, and I consider an enthusiast someone that has a whole garage full of bikes.
Sure.
They're all buying infields, and when we see them at a bike night or Quaker Steak and Lube or somewhere, what are they riding? The Royal Enfield. Yeah. It's not heavy. It's not like my big dresser trying to get it out of the garage. You know, it's easy to get out. So this unit is an anniversary model. They're celebrating their 120th anniversary. They shipped 60 of them to the United States. It was a lottery to be able to get one, and we were fortunate to be able to get this one, which is number 29 of the 60 that are shipped here in the U.S.
So this one's going to end up in the cellar then, huh?
This
in your
one's going to
collection.
stay. Yeah, this one's going to stay. We may not ride it. But they did some unique things. This is a brass badge, and it's the same manufacturer that made the brass badges for the Royal Enfields in the early 1900s.
Okay.
It's also a black chrome gas tank, and they went to the original chroming company over in England that did their black chroming to this gas tank. So it's got some unique stuff, and it's the first effort that Royal Enfield has done with the black engine and the black exhaust. Everything that we've been selling in the Royal Enfield line still has the traditional silver motor and silver exhaust pipes. So there's some unique stuff on it, and yeah, we're glad to have it.
Sure. I just can't believe the price on these things. How do they get away? How can they do that?
And it's interesting, you know, when we first became an Enfield dealer, 2018 or 19, when we looked at our sales history for manufacturers, you know, and who's on top, Harley, Yamaha, Honda, Royal Enfield was in the other column. And here we are 4 years later, and Triumph in 2024 is coming out with models to try to compete now with Royal Enfield in that price range. So in this 4 or 5 year period, they've literally gone off the charts because they came from the other column to now where they're in, you know, top contender.
I remember when I was a young chap in the 70s, the Royal Enfield, a couple guys had them around. And
yes.
Those were English made,
yes,
right?
There was a gentleman over in Hubbard, I think it was, that sold the Royal Enfields back then, a couple guys that sold them out of their garage. But the early dealers, if you wanted to buy 3 or 4 of them, they'd ship them to you in your garage, and you were a dealer.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Things have changed a little bit now. I wish it was that easy, and I wish it was that cost-effective to become a dealer is what it was back then versus what it is today.
So when did they start making them in India?
So they went to India when they came out with the new phase. So Royal Enfield North America as a corporation started in 2017.
Okay.
So they were imported into the United States, but there were no real dealer network until 2017. They had been making them. They're the largest produced, largest purchased motorcycles in India now. So that's what makes them over the world.
There's a ton of people over there.
Yeah.
They got 1 billion.
And it's amazing how many people you can get on one of them over there versus here. So yeah.
And they're probably a lot cheaper over there too.
Yes, they are. Yep,
Wow.
yep. And they, you know, Royal Enfield North America has a business model that they never want to exceed $8,000. So any new models that they come out with, they hope they can always stay under that $7,900 price range. So we as a dealer keep waiting to see what that's going to be because we're at $6,100 right now. Okay, so what's going to be the next cool thing that's going to be in that $7,900 price range?
Close, It doesn't take much.
No, not at all.
All right, joining me right now is one of the best guys. He hates to use the word restoration, but if there's a guy that can take something that's a pile of scrap and make it look beautiful and be in a magazine, it's none other than Ted Guthrie, part of one half of the vintage movement along with Bob Wenzel. Ted, a little bit about the bike that we're seeing here. You don't often see a Greaves. What was so special about them and how competitive were they?
Well, thanks for Larry. Thanks for having us along here, folks. And yes, indeed, the Greaves, British Greaves brand, are not very well known in the United States. They were at one time, however, a very competitive machine, very effective in their own right. This one in particular is indeed quite rare, as it is a factory observed trials machine. It is specifically the Scottish Trials model. Very distinctive in many ways. Greaves used the British Villars engine in those. They sourced from outside the company. Also distinctive are the old style leading link front forks. Now, this machine may look a bit heavy and clunky, but in fact, during its era, it was very effective in its intended use. This one dates to 1965. And basically what we're seeing here is a machine, although it has received some cosmetic attention, is pretty much in very much original condition as written, and in fact could be easily competitive today in vintage trials competition, of course. Now, in addition to the Greaves, we're lucky enough to have another vintage movement supplied machine here with us tonight, and this one is also quite special. It is a Hodaka handmade, custom-made trials bike, and Bob Wenzel acquired this machine along with his son a few years ago. Not quite in this nice of condition, but Quinn took it upon himself a couple of years ago to do a full-up cosmetic restoration. And Bob, you can attest to the amount of work that Quinn put into the bike to get it the way it looks right now.
Yeah, if I could just tell a quick story about that. You guys have had Quinn on the show, obviously. So Quinn found this bike at the swap meet, and he knew right away that it was different, and it was something, what we would call a one-off. So he sends me a picture. I come down. The guy that owns it says it's locked up. Motor's locked up. So he was asking $650 or something like that. So Quinn, I told Quinn, I said, it's your deal. You negotiate. Quinn got him down to $400. It didn't look like this. We drug it back to the pits, pulled the spark plug out, kicked the kicker, and water squirted up. It was hydrolocked. The motor was not locked up, it had water in it. So we tipped it upside down, kicked it, cleaned the carburetor, put fresh gas in it, and it fired up, and we actually rode it around mid-Ohio.
How do they go about reaching the vintage movement?
Well, Ted can tell people that. So.
Well, we do indeed have a website. It's www.vintagemovement.net. Also, of course, we are on social media, a big presence on Facebook. You can look at us up anytime. But just Google Vintage Movement in North Benton, Ohio, and you're sure to find us. This is a success story of just yet another small company based here in the United States that came along in the 1960s and the 1970s, riding the explosive boom of motorcycling in the United States. Now, this all originated with a group of guys out in Athena, Oregon, who are basically in the business of simply importing various materials for resale in the United States market, the North American market. And they happen to be trail bike enthusiasts. They like to take their little bikes out and go riding in the mountains and hills in Oregon. And one thing led to another. They started importing some little motorcycles from overseas. And as things progressed, they began to provide research and development work to help improve the machines over the years. And this is one of the examples of what came out of that. The Hodakas may be a bit less known mainstream these days, but they have a tremendous following then and now. They ceased production in the late 70s, but to this day they're extremely popular, very well sought after, a great collector's machine, and still perform very, very well.
To conclude, they have, on these models here, they're kind of unique. The Dirt Squirt, the Wombat, the Combat Wombat, the Dirt Hog or
Super
Road
Rat,
Hog. Yeah. So a very familiar setting. They still hold, I think once a year, a get together in Athena, Oregon.
Yes.
And there's a local distributor of repop parts and stuff over here in Connecticut, I believe, or New Hampshire, somewhere in that. Hi everybody, from the 23rd Motorcycle Exhibit at the Packard Museum. This is like my fourth or fifth stop. Checking in with Kenny Sampson, longtime friend, guy that can do just about everything from painting to motorcycling. Seems like I have buddies that can do it all. But joining me right now is Kenny Sampson from Sharpsville, Pennsylvania, and his K1 BMW. How you doing, Kenny?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
I am doing great. This bike is special, and I want you to tell our listeners how you acquired this bike, and then what is so special about a K1?
Well, the difference is that the BMW made the Boxer twins, flat Boxers, and the younger guys at BMW decided they were going to do something a little different. So they got together and they made this bike. And the first ones that came out were the 1985. They came out with the K100.
Correct.
Which is had a flat engine, 4-cylinder, valve cover on one side, oil pan on the other side, laying flat.
Laying flat.
1,000 cc's.
Right.
Now the 85, that was a good motorcycle. And then in 90, they made this thing. And some people called it the Buck Rogers motorcycle.
Somebody just called it
It's
ugly.
futuristic.
But I'll tell you what, over the years, it went from being ugly to a work of art.
Yeah, well,
What is special about a K1, Kenny?
well, it's
Everything.
I'll tell you. When I first looked at it, it was for sale over in Canton. Excuse me. In Canton, Ohio. And I called the guy and I said, "Oh, I'd like to see this. I had never saw one before." So he says, told me where he'd meet me. He says, "I'll meet you at McDonald's." Well, I got over there and I'm waiting for him at McDonald's. Didn't show up. So then I called him on the cell phone. And he says, "I'm at McDonald's." I says, "Well, no, I'm at McDonald's." He says, "Well, there's 2 McDonald's on this road. You must be at the other one." He says, "I'll come to you." So I'm waiting, and I saw it coming. Red, yellow, mustard and ketchup.
Yep.
And I told him when he got there, he says, "What do you think of it?" I says, "I don't like it. I don't think I'm going to buy it." He says, "Well, why don't you give it a chance?" I says, "No, that's the damned ugliest motorcycle I ever saw." He says, "I'll tell you what, follow me back to my house." So we got back there and he says, "Just take it for a ride." I took it for a ride. That sealed the deal. It had the smoothest shifting transmission I've ever seen on a BMW. It was fast, it was comfortable.
Plenty of power.
A lot of power. I mean, you pass a car, you're getting 115 just getting around the car. I mean, that's no
Oh,
fact.
yeah.
That's
You don't see very many of these. It's kind of what we call an acquired taste. You have to let it kind of, either you love it or you don't, but if you don't love it, if you're around it enough, it starts to grow on you.
well, there's a few of them around. I think they only brought 600 of them to the States. They only made 6,000 altogether from 89 to like 91. And they kind of phased them out. The graphics are what really sets it off, but I mean, it is a good motorcycle. It is fast, it's quiet, hot, runs hot. So you don't want to ride this out on the desert in a pair of shorts. You'll get third-degree burns. But
Yeah. Now, just to replace something, like let's talk about the decals on the side of the bike. Just to replace those decals, I bet you're going to have $1,000, $1,500 to try and, if you can find them.
no, I bought those out of Greece because when I bought it, didn't have any graphics with it. So I bought those out of. I found a place in Greece. It's called E-Stickers. And I bought those for 63 euros and 13 euros to ship them.
How
Now,
much
a
is
euro
that?
and a dollar is about the same right now.
Oh my God. Because I'm telling you what,
That was under 100
I've
bucks.
tried to buy some Harley decals for bikes, for tanks and stuff, and hundreds and hundreds of dollars for little,
Well,
and they're original.
This place sells stickers for everything, all kinds of motorcycles, everything. And they're the only ones that I ever found the stickers at. And like I say, for $80,
Well, let me ask you, how long have you owned the bike?
20 years.
Well,
I rode it.
Eddie thinking about getting rid of it?
No,
Going with you, huh?
I put it right in the ground. When I go in the ground, it's going with me.
All right, so you're enjoying yourself tonight on the
Yes.
23rd exhibit?
Yes, I am. And I was going to mention a few things here. This is the first motor on a motorcycle to have 4 valves per cylinder.
That's a game changer. You start to get up around 80 mile an hour. 4 valves versus 2 valves on the intake is a big deal. Big.
Has ABS.
That's new for 91.
Right.
Pretty
It has,
innovative.
it has a paralever suspension on the rear,
Single-sided swing arm paralever.
and that flat motor, of course. And it's got bigger brakes, Imbo brakes, only they're bigger. It's got a lot of firsts on it.
Now, what do you think the value of this bike would be right now in today's market and climate?
Well, I've seen them anywhere up to $10,000 now. Before, you could have bought one for $2,000.
Not now.
But now they're finally starting to catch on. Originally, I mean, it's just kind of like the Harley when they had the V-Rod,
Right.
and the V-Rod never caught on. So they weren't worth anything. This was the same way. It didn't catch on. But now it is. Now it's a collector's item.
Right.
So
So now the value of these are
appreciated.
appreciated. I know you got a blue one. I'm gonna come over and hang out over there.
It's a gray one. Yeah.
A gray one. I like gray. I like gray. All right, Kenny, I want to thank you very much. Longtime motorcyclist, good friend of the motorcycling community, and good friend of mine. Kenny Sampson, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, it's Larry Ward. It's our last stop. It's the National Packard Museum's 23rd motorcycle exhibit. You've got to get out here. It is going on now through May 16th, right, Rick?
They got 35 bikes here. It's really nice.
That's
Featuring what, the BMW out here and a bunch of other stuff too.
And if you followed this show, you saw a great many of them and the exhibitors. It is a great find out here. You got to get out here for a small amount of money. Not only get to see 35 very unique motorcycles, but also the Packards.
Yes, that's what's nice too. Come out here and see the Packards. When you're done looking at the motorcycles, check out all these beautiful Packards. There's something to see.
I want to thank Marianne Porinchak, the director of the Packard Museum, and also Jim Iacozzelli, who helped sponsor tonight's media party.
This has been, our 4th or 5th time out here doing this show, and it's fun. Every time we come out here, it's a lot of fun, and they pulled a lot of people out here for Media Day.
Yeah, it's funny. I have such a bad memory. I went to our producer, executive director, and I said, hey, let's go out there. Let's go do that. And he goes, we did that last year and the year before. And I went, oh, really? So, okay, it seems all new to me every year.
It is. It was all new bikes anyway, huh?
Absolutely. And don't forget, it's all good. It's for the gem of the Trumbull County and our whole community, the National Packard Museum, the motorcycle exhibit going on now through May 20th.
We'll see you down the road.